What's good, YouTube? The top 5 hardest characters to play in Overwatch, okay? So this video, I already know, is going to have a lot of mixed opinions. Some people, depending on how much you've played a class, what perspective you've come from, whether it's comp, what characters you have in mind you're going to have to compete against, and all this stuff can really make people have completely different opinions on this. So I already know a lot of people, or at least some, will disagree, okay? It's just baseline going to happen. So if you do disagree, leave your reasons why in the comments below, and we'll have a good discussion. You can list what you think's the hardest. I'm going to do another top 5 easiest. This is updated, the 2017 edition, since we've had some new characters put into the game. And this video is going to have a little bit of a different structure, okay? So I'm going to give an out of 10 score for each character on how viable it is in comp, out of 10 how good its abilities are. Now this is again up for discussion, but I'll break it down exactly why and what abilities come to mind and things like that. Their normal attack or attacks, if they have a left and a right click, and their ult, out of 10 how useful it is. And that will be how this breaks down. So we'll start from number 5 and move our way up to the hardest overall class I think it is in the game to do well in. Okay, so it's one thing playing it, but it's to do well in it, to be on fire, to really contribute to the game, to the team, and that is how we'll break it down. Okay, so coming in at number 5 was a toss-up between, I think, McCree and Sombra. But I've chosen Sombra out of those because McCree can be slightly easier with that stun and you just right click, okay? But normally, you know, he's got, it's almost like a sniper. Have to have a good aim and things. Some people can really struggle, but enough of McCree. We're going to talk about Sombra because I think she's slightly harder to do well in, or at least really contribute, okay? So why is this? Starting off with the big hitter is how viable she is in comp, okay? Now I'm going to give her a 5 out of 10. Now if you're a Sombra fan, I actually like the gameplay style of her. You're not going to like the 5 out of 10 score. And she can do very well in comp, okay? So anyone that even does get a kind of low score in a particular category, there is instances where you can do good, except Sombra's like a... she's DPS, but she doesn't bring that up front kind of damage, and off feels like a soldier and things like that. So she comes into be not super viable when you only have a certain amount of choices to construct a team. 2 tanks, 2 heals, and the DPS normally. So 5 out of 10 with the viability there. She's not seen very often. Moving on, her abilities, we'll give it 8 out of 10, okay? With the hacks to stuff up enemies can be major, okay? When you take Ryan's shield out of order, that with some targeted kind of coordination on him can bring him down super quick. Not to mention her stealth, and gives her the double speed boost with her movement ability. Can get behind them super quick, and she can teleport, okay? So her abilities come in pretty high with an 8 out of 10. I do have to mention, this out of 10 score is just going to help me explain things a little bit better. It doesn't actually contribute much to the actual score they'll get at the end, but I figure it will help show you which characters, if you're unsure about, you should pick in a game when it comes up between the toss-up of these 5, okay? So that final grade at the end will list and show you a little bit of a direction, I guess, you can pick when it comes to what choices you have to complete a team. Okay, then her normal ability. Up for discussion again to do with aim. It is hit scan, so it can be beneficial because there's no projectile. If the aim is on them, it just hits them when you hit your weapon left click. But 6 out of 10. For the fact that you have to be close, okay? Getting in close, she's a squishy character, can be devastating if you get hit first. And it doesn't have a very big mag, okay? So it's hit scan like Soldier with a smaller magazine and a little bit less damage. Kind of gives her that stealthy kind of Genji gameplay. But Genji can hit from far away and reflect bullets and things like that. She has to get close to get it. If you're not flanking me in the face, you can get caught out and you're in some big trouble. So 6 out of 10 for her normal ability. And her ultimate, the AoE EMP move, 7 out of 10. Okay, it is very beneficial if you want to capture a point or something, taking out teams and stuff, but it can get countered, okay? You can help wipe a team, but you're not actually wiping a team like the Zarya would be if she pulled them together, or the Pharah that mows them all down, okay? You're just helping a little bit, and it can be countered. Mercy's just going to res them up. You can get, you come in to hit the EMP, you have to be in close range. McCree stuns you, game over, you get the deal. So 7 out of 10 gives you a score of 26. Okay, again, that final score is not going to contribute too much, but it will add them up at the end, and it will help give you a direction on what you can pick. Moving up, coming in at number 4 is going to be Zarya. Okay, I feel like she's a good pick here just because of you have to be very accurate with her laser to do damage. Your timing of your shields is crucial. Sure, you can pop them all the time and do well, but using it to counter abilities and build your shield up to do extra damage makes the class, it can be simplified, but if you want to do well, it makes her complex, okay? If you know what you're doing. So going into her out of 10 scores, they're going to be pretty high because overall, she's a solid character to choose from. So, 9 out of 10 for viability. She has long range bombs to do damage and take down Ryan shields if you're coming from a distance. She got the close range laser, okay, which locks onto people. And being close range would normally be an issue, except that she has that shield to pop. And if you do damage into that, she's just going to get stronger. That laser's going to do more damage. So all flows super good together. Not to mention that she's a tank. You need tanks, they're hard to take out. She's got the off support with her. You know, you can target a teammate, hit your E, put a shield onto them as well. And ultimate is one of the best in the games, okay? So I pretty much just explained all of them, all the points here. But 9 out of 10 for viability in comp. Okay, she's always going to be a solid pick. Sometimes picking like a Ryan or something would be better if you really need that shield. But she's a tank, always going to be really good to use in comp mode. 8 out of 10 for abilities. Like I said, they're just universal. They flow really well with the 2 shields. Her left and right click is really good. 8 out of 10 for a normal ability, because that laser does a lot of damage, especially if it's buffed. Not to mention you can right click and get ranged projectiles happening. And then her ultimate, like I said, one of the best in the game. 9 out of 10. Pairs with a lot of people. Junkrats, Pharahs, soldiers, McCrees. It just holds them together, and then your team can finish them off. And you can run in, hit your ult, pop the shield on yourself, and run around them in circles with your laser just hitting everyone, okay? So normally going to be a team wiper. Her ultimate's on 9 out of 10. Bringing her in at a big 34. Moving up, coming in at 3rd place, slightly harder than the other 2 in my opinion to play and do well in, is the Zenyatta. Okay, so just a quick description of why I think this. He has one of the lowest health pools in the whole game. Okay, if Sombra's on the other team, one of the 5th place getter in the hardest thing, she can counter you with your ult and even takes off your shield. So you have little health. You can get one shot by Widowmaker, all this stuff. And yeah, projectiles, so hard to hit, things like that. It's not like a Mercy with just a guaranteed you can fly around and heal everyone. You got to put your buffs and debuffs onto people. So kind of hard player or character to play and do well in. But he is a support, so always super beneficial. And now we'll move into his top 10 scores. Alright, Zenyatta. Out of 10, his viability in comp. He's a support, has debuffs, and he's bringing in his ultimate and things like that. This first category out of 10 brings in a few of the other categories. But so the viability for Zenyatta comes in at 8 out of 10. Okay, for comp. He's a support, so you know it's going to be high. You only need 2 supports on the team, and he is one of the best with the round of, or the mixture of abilities he brings to the table. He has the off heals. He even has debuffs, which is pretty original. Like, not many characters have a feature like that, and can even deal some damage. So pretty solid choice. Always a good pick in comp. His abilities, though, when it comes into it, overall, 6 out of 10. If you just look at his shift and his E, 6 out of 10. Now, why is this? His off heal, you can only heal one at a time, okay? If you're looking at other supports like a Lucio, he heals everyone. Mercy only does the one as well, but she can fly between people, you know, really focusing on switching between targets and things like that, switching to weapon, hitting some people with a projectile pistol, things like that. So Zen could be a 6 or a 7 out of 10 for his abilities, but he only has the debuff to choose from and the just the buff heal for his team. Very slow though, you know, can't fly around like a Mercy and things like that. So that's probably his downside, would be the abilities, or following up would be his normal attack. So I'm just going to give that a 6 out of 10 as well. Maybe even a 5, but I'm just going to lock in 6 because generally speaking, if you play as Zen, you know what you're doing. But his normal ability, his left click, is a traveling movement. Okay, so it's not hit scan like a soldier or something, which means it can be hard to hit. If you got a Pharah up in the sky or something, she can be hard to hit. Sure, you can put the debuff on her, but 1v1 trying to take her out is going to be very hard. You're slow, so his projectile isn't super good. His right click though comes in as his normal attack too, because you build it up. Can be good, okay? For some reason, you can make sure you're going to land that build-up attack with a debuff on that person. You can nearly one-shot someone, or at least do a major amount of damage to them. The problem is landing it, okay? His abilities are good, or his standard attacks are good, but landing them is the hard bit, which is why the score is low, okay? So 6 out of 10 for that. But that brings us to his ultimate. Out of 10, a 9 out of 10, okay? Could be an 8. I'm just going to say 9 because used at the right time, just like Zarya, I guess, but for different things. Zarya, used at the right time, will wipe a team. Zen's ultimate, used at the right time, will save a team, okay? Invulnerable, you get a movement speed thing, and it's just such a pain to deal with if he pops that and your team was going in to try and wipe them with your ults on the ready, okay? So can completely change the tide of a game if used at the right time, and that gives his ultimate a big score, like I said, 9 out of 10, bringing his total score to 29. Moving on to what I think is the second hardest character to play in the game, but seen kind of often on a defensive side, is Symmetra. Okay, so because of that, her viability comes in at 7 out of 10. It would be higher if she was used a lot on attack, but because she's such a defensive character, I mean, there's a defensive section of characters you can pick, but some of them can be used on offense very well, okay? But Symmetra, with the turret setup, isn't going to give you much on offense, but it is very good on defense. So because of this, comes in at a solid 7 out of 10 for viability. She brings some nice abilities to the table and things like that, and we'll break them down in a second. But just overall, 7 out of 10 can be very good in your comp games. Her abilities though, her projectile little shield is super good, and her turrets, if set up correctly in little sneaky places where people are just going to get barraged by lasers, come in at a good 7 out of 10 also. Because when used wisely, I mean, the turrets get taken out pretty quickly normally, but used wisely, say under the bridge, or a bridge or something, or a doorway if someone runs in, is going to catch them off guard. You can have 4 of them pointing, 1 they're getting lasered down. Sure, they're going to look up and try and take them out, but then you can projectile your shield over them, interrupting their fire, as well as your laser in the back, which we'll move on to now. Her normal abilities also get a solid 7 out of 10 because she has 2 options. She can build up a big orb and fire that on cutthroat points, like a bottleneck where a team's trying to push through, okay? So it's a nice counter. They're trying to avoid the orb, and she can continuously load them up and shoot them downfield, a slow traveling thing, so people want to try and jump out of the way. Normally, unless you hit someone like they pop their head out at the wrong time, it's going to be very hard to land, but it's more of a denial, an area denial. They can't push through the choke point, like I said. But if in range, her left click, the beam, the one that locks on, does super strong damage. The problem is, like I said, have to be in range, and she's a squishy character. So that's why it comes in 7 out of 10. That laser would be super good, except for the fact that she can get taken out easy when in close range. And moving on to our ultimate, 7 or 8 out of 10. I'm just going to say 7 because it's a defensive setup. On offense, it can be good. We're talking about the shield generator or the teleport here. I'm going to focus on the teleport when set up from like a capture point where you're trying to defend the first point. Super good as an initial pick in a comp game. You might have to switch once the teleport isn't super good anymore, or the turrets aren't going to be super good. For that first point though, it can be super strong having that teleport to get back up. Can get it quickly, but you only get 6 charges or so, remember? So can be super good, but coming in as second top hardest, you got to know what you're doing with Symmetra for her to be good. Okay, final choice, coming in at the hardest character, I think, in the game, not to play, but to do well with, and the abilities, and use the abilities to their maximum potential, and not be countered, and things like this. I'm going to give it to Orisa. Now, a lot of people right now are probably disagreeing with this, because she has such a big clip, right? I'll tell you why I think people will disagree. She has such a big clip, all you do is hold down left click, right? She has a shield that she puts up, she stands behind it and does that. She has a grip, okay? So really nice, kind of easy to use abilities to an extent. But the reason I put it in at number 1 is for a few reasons. I will break down our top 10 on why this actually is, okay? So Orisa, 8 out of 10 viability in comp, okay? She's a solid choice since she's a tank. She has the shield and things like that, and we'll break it down. Actually, let's go into abilities now. Also an 8 out of 10, because of the tether, can be super useful. Well, not super useful, but good enough, okay? So you can hold your, or tether them and load up your projectile cannon, so they get pulled into the spray, okay? So that's going to help a lot. You can also pair that up well if you're playing in a comp game, or you're on mic with someone, like a McCree, for instance, has come to mind. Tethering back, and you know exactly where they're going to land, you can just pre-stun them. So her abilities are super good. Can counter a lot of people with her shift, the invulnerability, and take less damage. Like I said, viability 8 out of 10. Influenced by her 8 out of 10 on abilities. But here's the kicker. 6 out of 10 I gave her for normal attack. Now this is because it is super good, simply put, because it does so much damage and such a big clip. But it's so hard to land effectively if someone on the other team can avoid it and knows what they're doing, that it becomes an issue. Sure, the tether helps, but trying to hit like a tracer or something, they're just going to zip around everywhere and counter you and get out of the spray. So she's very slow, very big, and just has to kind of load up. Even more so than a Bastion. She has to make sure she knows where she's shooting, and she moves very slow when she's shooting, which makes her very vulnerable to other attacks. And we'll talk a little bit about this at the end. But finally, her ultimate, a 7 out of 10, contributes to everyone by giving them a big buff, but can be singled out and shot down and killed. Okay, so it is good, but not that good, because it can be taken out, okay? Giving her a final score of 29, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I think she's one of the hardest characters in the game. Maybe not the super most hardest for everyone's opinion, but I put her in at number 1 just because I'm talking from a perspective where you have good players on the other team, okay? So let's talk about a few things. The projectiles, or her normal attack, is hard to hit. It's a big minigun, and people can avoid the bullets. If they do get hit though, it does a lot of damage, so you can take them out. But because it's hard to hit, and it makes her slow when she's firing, she's very vulnerable. She's vulnerable to Widowmakers. Widowmakers with her head being so large, like her overall body just being so large, it is so easy. It's probably one of the easiest characters in the game to land hits on. So if you're playing a Widowmaker, she is your favorite, as long as that shield's not in the way, because you're just poking her in the head every time, and it does a lot of damage. She has slightly less health than some of the other tanks, and this makes her nice to take out. So a few counters there. It's hard to land her ability, and nothing she does is really going to change a game. Okay, it's not going to completely change the tide of a game like a Zarya orb that pulls them together, or a soldier lock on that everyone stresses out about. Okay, her shield will get in the way. She gives a damage buff to people, which is nice. She does the tether, which is also nice, but not super good. And all of this, she can be easy to play to an extent, but against good players can be destroyed very easy. And I feel like she's a very hard character in this game to master, to be super good on, to be on fire every game without having any issues about getting headshot by Widowmakers and stuff all the time. Or a McCree. McCree is also a bad pick for her on the other team. So that's my top 5 hardest. I'll be sure to bring a top 5 easiest, and followed up by what I think is a top 5 solid or best picks to go within comp or something like that. But for now, it's going to wrap this video up. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're planning to. Keep it chill in the comments if you disagree. We want to know about your opinions, but be chill about it. So I will see you guys next time.